Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. In my previous episode, I talked about human-centric design, right? And I did mention about a relationship using design, right? Uh, the importance of relationship in design. So I want to briefly talk about a little bit more about this topic, why relationship is important, and how you can improve the relationship using design, right? So to think about it, right? When you are building, I mean, I'm gonna explain from my experience. So I may not be covering much, from a trailhead perspective. So like, yeah, I did mention key points, which I will touch. But so when you're building a software, right? As I mentioned, you should keep customer as the first priority or the user because you're building a solution for the user. You're not building a solution for a machine. That's a different story if you're building a service which does the stuff behind the scene and where user don't really have to uh, involve in any kind of activities, right? So that's the different stuff I'm talking about. I'm talking about from a user experience, right? Where user actually click on a button or enter the information on a checkbox, sorry, on a text field or ticket checkbox. So that's a user interaction. And when you're building a software, right, a lot of things comes into picture. Like I mentioned, that you got to make the font a little bit bigger or to the decent size, so everyone can read it, right? And it should not be the color should not be so uh, you should not choose the colors in such a way that it start causing headache to a person who's looking at the screen, right? That shouldn't be the case. Um, and another thing I just wanted to mention that when you build a design, right, a lot of things comes into picture. We talk about customer. That's great. That's an external factor, right? You're building for a customer. But what about the team you're going to work with, right? Obviously, right? You obviously going to work with developers. You're going to work with testers. You're going to work with designers. You're going to work with architects. So the team dynamics inside your organization, that matters a lot, right? Because we want to ensure that people trust each other at work. We want to ensure that there is a good working relationship between the people who are involved in building a project for a customer. We also wanted to make sure that the software you build is going to, has a positive impact to the community, right? For instance, the COVID software, right? The COVID software. I was involved in a COVID-19 project, right, in New Zealand. So a lot of things I did, I've seen that it has a very positive impact on the customer. Like for instance, I was involved in the border project, right? I can't tell you much details, but I was involved in the border project where when a visitor enters New Zealand, they use that software which I was involved in building. So I can see a positive influence in the community, right? So the design of the solution, you so it's an opportunity, right? When you're building a solution, you are getting an opportunity to build a relationship between the people you work with, relationship between your customer and the company, relationship between your community members, right? How your solution will impact all of these people. If you think about it for a second, you will realize that it plays a very important role, right? Though it looks very simple, though it looks very trivial, though you might think, hey, why do I care, right? My job is to build a software. Yes, your job is to build a software, that's right, but a lot of factors comes into consideration. You're not the only one who's involved in the entire process, right? We have project managers, we have stakeholders, we have testers, we have developers, right? We have architects, we have user acceptance testers, we have automation testers who does scripting, right? And then we have business analysts or consultants. Uh, a lot of people involved in building a solution, right? Which will be useful for a customer. So the relationship among these team members is very important. If there's a rift, if there is a disagreement, you will see that impact on the project. If the stakeholders, don't treat their employees very well, then you can see the impact in the performance. You can see that the same impact reflected in the solution they're building. Then employees um, will not pay much attention to the quality. They will say, "Hey, why do I care if my company don't care?" So relationship building, it's important. So now here in trailer they talk about customer relationship, yeah, and they say when you're building a design, remember that users are customers are human being, not machines. In-depth research and create forums. This is one thing I just wanted to mention. When you build a software, right, make sure you have a user group. The user group is an opportunity, or a focus group is an opportunity where the customer can give the feedback. And one thing I just wanted to mention that people should be encouraged to give the feedback, because what happens in some of the businesses I've noticed, they don't take feedback from a customer, they don't take feedback from the employee because the companies think they know everything. And as a matter of fact, what happens after a few years, the company go bust because of the few factors, which was very obvious but was not very obvious to them. Like I said, the customer feedback, employee feedback, right? Um, and also that's tying under employee relationship, which I already mentioned, right? You have to have a great collaboration across teams and create a safe environment by assisting employees to ask the right question. Have you ever thought about the university life, right? University. When I talk about the university, right, the first thing that comes to your mind uh, is a place where you're encouraged to ask questions. At least during my time when I went to MIT, so it was different. I don't know what's the state about MIT now, but at least when I was there, um, it was I could ask questions I want. I could you know debate about the different topics without offending someone. Unfortunately, the world has changed. I get it, and you also agree with me on that, right? Now people get offended for every damn thing, right? You raise something, they get offended about this. You talk about this, they get something about this. You get something about it. Just messy, shy. To be honest, right? That's one of the reasons why I sometimes feel, right. My daughter, she wants to go to MIT as well, right? So I told her that if you think that in a campus or in a university, you're not getting an opportunity, right, where you can debate or express your thoughts freely, then you probably have to work out a different way where using which you can express it, right? Because there's no point suppressing what do you think about things, right? I don't want to talk about cancel culture, and I'm kind of shy, but I'm just saying that when you're in university, you should be able to express whatever you wanted to, as long as it's in a legal framework, right? And yeah, and the same thing should be applied in the businesses, right? An employee should be able to express the concern, and it's very important, right? If you suppress that means that there is a problem which you don't want to address it as a business, and which is a serious concern, right? I'm a businessman, right? If somebody has an issue, I always happy to see what we can do to improve it, rather than shutting them off, right? Which is not really great, in my opinion. And I've worked with the businesses before where they're very flexible, right? They give opportunity to their people to express their concerns and frustrations. I do get it. At times, it's not easy to address every scenario, but if the business is willing to at least try the best to address the most critical concerns, then that's a good start. So improved relationship for design covers all of this, right? And you must be wondering why I've been talking about it, right? Because it's a part of it, right? UX design, human centric design, it involves building a relationship between your customer and the company, building a relationship between your coworkers, all right? So that's why it's important. Also, the community relationship, like I said, I gave you an example of the COVID-19 project I did. Um, So yeah, it's important, right, to talk about it. And also, I believe that it's always good to challenge the design, right? Because the reason why, I mean, challenge in the sense not for the sake of it, but if you think there's an opportunity to improve, So you should challenge the design. When you do that, you will realize that there's a huge opportunity to improve, and that's how you will come up with a better design. Now, I get it. You might say better is a subjective, but let's assume that you have a benchmark which you consider it as a better, right? If you can achieve that using different brainstorming, different ways of getting it, then that's exactly what you should be doing, right? So yeah, that's pretty much I wanted to cover in terms of the relationship design. And that being said, hope you guys have an amazing Monday.